Welcome to The People's View, a program dedicated to discussing local, state, and national issues and their effect on the American people. The People's View provides a platform for state representatives and national figures to present their viewpoint. Whether it's social, economic, or financial topics, you'll hear it on The People's View.
Hello, and welcome to The People's View. This is Carl Seidel, your co-host, with my co-host Kevin Avard, and we're sponsored by the Nashua Republican City Committee. Look at the website at nashuagop.org for finding out more about the organization and our programs. We meet the second Thursday of every month at the Crown Plaza. And tonight we're interviewing the candidate for Ward 4 representative in the House, and that is Elizabeth van Twuyver. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you.
Good.
Very good to be here.
Good.
Yes, I'm glad that it turned out that I have a second chance at this running for state representative.
Well, you came in a close fourth, and I hope that you'll make it this time, and I think you'd make an excellent person up there in the House.
Thank you.
With your background on the Board of Education that you've been serving for the last year.
Yes, I just finished my first year.
And how do you like it there?
I love it. I love it. Well, so far we haven't had too many big challenges, but there may be some coming up. We just started the budget process, and a little concerned about where the money's coming from and how we're going to spend it sensibly. So
good. Well, that's we'll go into that a little bit more. Why don't you give us a little bit of background on why you ran for the Board of Education and why you want to now be also a representative, and I assume also on Committee on Education up there.
Yes, that's my main focus is education. I'm very, very adamant about education. Mm-hmm. I think it's very, very important for a successful life, that once you teach a child how to love to learn, you've set them for life. And it's more obvious today than ever that children need a good education and even a higher education than public schools. They need to have, some need to have a college education for those jobs that require very technical abilities, and then also the vocational school too. Mm-hmm. So it's very critical. If we don't have these children that can do the 21st century jobs, then we're in trouble, I think. If we don't have a working force that can contribute as far as taxes are concerned, the whole thing falls apart. So education is very important. Just to be a happy person, it's important. When you love to learn, you never get old. Believe me, you never do. So I'm very committed to it. And that's why I ran for the school board. I saw a great need there for better education. I think the students that we were graduating did not have good enough skills. Reading, writing, and arithmetic, the basic communication skills. It's very important today that you are able to communicate your thoughts and to be able to participate in society, whether it's in your job or in your home or in your school, and not your school, but your citizenship, at the city level. So we need more educated, better educated students, I think. So that's why I ran, and I've enjoyed it immensely. I think we've done quite a lot of good this year as far as it. I'm particularly excited. Recently we put in a new writing course that's mandatory for the 9th grade, and I love that. Of course, being a writer, a technical writer, I would be, and also a public speaking person too. I would be very excited if they put in a more stringent speaking course too.
I think that's necessary.
Well, it is. I think about I'm trying to think of the guy from Microsoft.
And Bill Gates?
Yes, and Warren Buffett. They were speaking to a group of students, and I can't remember what college it was. And one of the people asked the question, if you had one piece of advice to give, what would you say to a student? And Warren Buffett said, get over your fear of public speaking. It's very important
Right.
that when you're able to communicate, it's good. So I'm hoping that they'll put another course in it. But the writing course is very good. I think it's exceptionally good. I want them to put in Alexa.
I was surprised that they didn't have one where they did more writing for freshmen. I mean, that's one thing.
Well,
You're changing the type of training you're getting, if you will, and you're going to have to be able to write about your knowledge.
That's right.
And if you can't write about it, and I know, well, when I was in graduate school, somebody writing a science report couldn't use the English very well. And it's kind of pathetic when they get that far and they still haven't been able to write in a very conversational way.
Yes, one of the things about writing, the important thing is it helps you to solidify your thoughts and to put them out in a logical way. And that's really important. If you're here and there and everywhere with your talk, then people can't follow you. So it's important. And I love to write anyway, so.
On the idea of education, I know that some of the local businesses, specifically the manufacturers like BAE, they're actually involved with some of the schools with the advanced manufacturing and education there. So if a child doesn't want to go to, say, college right away, but they want to graduate from high school and have some type of a trade, that's one of the things that the manufacturers are finding, that they're starving for people that when they graduate, they need to have work skills. And some of those would be, whether it's being literate in computers or simple arithmetic.
Well, we have a lot of programs at the high school level for that.
Right.
The CTE program particularly.
Exactly.
Right.
That's one of them.
But, it's even going to take more than that. They need to go to a vocational school and get 2 more degrees, 2 more years of education to be well skilled for these jobs. And I have to say that I think that also businesses need to have a good education and training program too. I know that when I went to work for Digital Equipment Corporation many years ago, they gave me a book, a manual to read, and a terminal, and told me, hey, you knock yourself out and you learn this. And it was the greatest education for me. But there needs to be more training, I think. I think that the businesses have probably fallen down a little bit in providing training for their people when they come on board. So I think that's important too.
But are you finding that the high school's training the people properly for post-high school education?
Well, I know with the community college that they have had some of our students that need remedial work.
Right.
And it's probably not up to snuff as it should be. I know that we always refer to the kneecap scores, and they're pretty not exciting, but they should be higher. So I think the tide is turning now, and I think that there's more importance. I know we've put in new math books at the middle school, and then this writing course, and there's a lot of effort now to increase their skills, and hopefully the kneecap. The only problem is that we have this Common Core standards coming along, and then we're going to have a new set of testing that has to be done, so it's going to be kind of hard to see if we're making the progress that we should.
I know that one of the teachers that I've been one of the elementary teachers that I've been talking with, said that, my gosh, I can't do my regular teaching because of all this extra testing that we're doing, and I'm feeling like I'm going to be a bad teacher because I can't get my job done. They're testing and testing and testing, and they're not learning. They're not going through their regular curriculum, and it really seems to be interfering. Now, who's pushing these tests?
Well, the new tests, I can't remember the title of it, that's coming along with the Common Core standards. They're, testing against the Common Core. But we have an iReady system now that they're testing, and they're just beginning to use and getting historical data on the students, seeing if they're progressing. But I was thought that just came through about, I know, in the summertime, the district put on a workshop for evaluating teachers, and also we've talked about how another book that they were using about how to do these intermediate tests to see how the child is going, how they're learning, and that's going to help quite a bit too. And then they'll have a major evaluation test once a year or twice a year or something like that. But that's all under development now because of Common Core. So we're going through a big transition, I think.
Are we making too many transitions?
Well,
one of the things that, you know, if you have a program, you have to evaluate whether it's working. You need that feedback. And have you, as the Board of Education or as the administration of the schools, getting feedback from the community colleges on what the students that are coming in and having to take remedial courses, what they're deficient in?
well, they're started conversations like that. Superintendent Conrad has been talking with the community college here, and also Mrs. Susing is also capturing more data for us. We've been asking for that, and Bob Hallowell, the president, has been asking for that, but they're not used to doing that, I guess, and now we're putting a little pressure on them to give us data.
So you're getting that feedback and
so they get the
evaluating.
feedback, and then we have real concrete information. We can say, yes, we know that this is happening, and like that. So
I mean, that's one way
It's a
of
big ship, and it
evaluating
takes
the
a long time.
teachers too. I mean, if you find out that 50% went through Mrs. So-and-so's English class or Mr. Brown's math class, and they're in the remedial class, I'd worry about how Mr. Brown and Mrs. Smith is doing.
Well, the other thing, too, is that they've going to initiate these observation periods where the administration of the school will go in and observe a teacher more than just once a year. The evaluation process,
yes.
we're looking at that now, too. We do have a lot of things on
Do
the
they carry
file.
consequences, though, if somebody gets a bad rating?
Well, it's not a consequence. You know, these observations are to a collaborative with a teacher that's, you know, going back and forth. It's a way to help the teacher improve.
Right.
It's not a pejorative thing. And I love that. I think it's great. You just can't judge a teacher by looking at their class once a year.
Right.
So that, I think, is going to also help. And there will be a process of helping them out if they're struggling. So they're looking at that, too.
Well, I think that's good. In industry, we were told that we have to work with our people more frequently than just the once-a-year evaluation.
That's right.
Although a lot of people in industry still do that too, but I
Right.
think that's a shortcoming.
Right.
You have to be able to, especially the ones that are let me say, either average or below average performer. The ones that are self-motivating are doing better. They come and ask questions, and you give them advice because they're asking about it. The other ones you have to go to and say, would you like to do something better, you know, and this is what you have to do to be able to do that.
There's also a lot of peer help, too, that they have coaches, peer coaches, they're talking about that will help the struggling teacher. The education is so complex today with all the problems that they have to solve. We have a great deal of poverty, Title I people, and, you know.
And you have to allow that there's certain jobs are a lot harder than
Well,
other jobs.
we were just talking about it the other night about how you evaluate student progress. Well, there are so many people in the classroom that it's hard to say, you know, about it. And it brought it home to me that there are not too many, but there are more than one person that can evaluate that child and how they're doing. So, or have an input to how that child is doing. So it's not an easy thing, but I think that they can work out something that will be good.
Well, I hope that, you know, you have to look at teachers as just any other kind of worker, and from the standpoint that you're going to have some that can't do the job.
That's right.
I know I was very surprised when, years ago, I went to one of the Board of Education meetings, and when somebody asked the question, well, how many teachers are in, I don't know what they called it, remedial training for them, but something, you know, and out of more than 1,000 teachers, only one person was in that. Now that, to me, is somebody's not looking at it very carefully.
Yeah.
You're going to have, you know, anywhere, you know, I would think between 5 and 15% of people that need some kind of assistance in doing a better job.
Yeah.
Let's talk about taxes, if you don't mind.
Sure.
It's come to my attention that there's going to be a beer tax, there's going to be an additional tax on the registration, there's going to be, help me out here.
Sales tax on the gas tax? I mean,
Sales tax,
Oh.
and on your registration. And,
Yeah.
and one of the things that's troubling me is when the House was run by Republicans, they not only cut, but they also balanced the budget. They balanced the budget without raising one tax. And you, being head of the county, they lowered taxes as well. So now we're seeing all these new taxes coming about. And one of the unforeseen consequences is the seniors that are going to be affected by these taxes. They pay gas.
Oh, to me, the gas tax is the scariest one for me. Always having to fill up that tank and seeing it's $50 or more and adding more to it.
Do I eat or do I put in gas in my tank?
Well, I don't have that much of a problem,
but some might run into that problem.
well, it could be, yes, but not only that, businesses, look at all the truckers and
yeah.
all the businesses that are traveling that is going to add expense to them. It's outrageous, I think. I think that's not a good idea at all. Very not good idea. And the beer tax, well, I'm not a beer drinker, but I bet there are a lot of people in this state
Well,
who would.
the governor said she'd veto that one.
Yeah, I
She
thought
likes
that.
a
I
beer.
thought that was very smart of her because
But,
there are a lot of
yeah.
men that would.
I think they really got a tough time. I was
do.
at the Chamber of Commerce meeting last week, and Charlie Arlinghouse at the Center for Political Politics at St. Anselm's was showing a graph of where he expected to have the problems. And he showed the fact that, well, you might get another $10, $20 million just in more income from either business taxes or whatever other taxes that are already in place. But what the desires are added up to $500 million more. Where are they going to get that? There's, I mean, they have to talk about something, but they're not talking about cutting back.
Yeah, well, I think today, we ought to be just steady. Let's just steady.
That's it.
No new programs. No, let's just ride the wave here until we get out of this big slump with the federal government. If they don't have the money to give us for education or whatever, it's going to fall back on the schools.
That's right.
And I just wanted to mention, I guess it's the Senate Bill 40, which is the adequate funding for. Mr. Conrad has sent a letter in support of that bill because we may lose $347,000, and that would come in the middle of our fiscal year this year, which would put a big dent in our of our school budget. Plus, it also affects the rate of our taxes. And so, we're hoping that will go through. But, we have $2.4 million that we've just bonded to do safety enhancements to the school, which are necessary. And, that's $2 million that are being taken away from other things, mostly this, education. But so we've got a lot of things that are on the bill here that it's kind of scary in a way. I'm reading this book called The Debt Bomb by Senator Coburn, who's a Republican, I'll have to say that, but if the things that happened, what he thinks, if we don't meet our bills, then it's not too happy a spot for us. So I think that if we need to take just
Well, I think everybody has to
quiet for a
understand
while.
that, but understand that a lot of businesses aren't giving raises out or very minimal raises, and I think that, as long as we're still in the recession, that should be more common all the way around, because that's one way of keeping some costs under control.
I was talking to a business owner last night. They had it's a small business, 63, 64 employees. They cut it down to 49, 48 because of the up and coming,
fiscal.
The problems with, of course, the Obamacare and exchanges and all that kind of stuff. They wanted to get under. So what's happening across the board, everywhere there's, if you're in that range of 100 or 75 or less, there's going to be a drop off, and I think that's a real concern. But one of the things that we want to do here in New Hampshire is attract businesses here.
That's right.
The taxes, you don't want to, in a time like this, you want to raise the taxes and scare them off.
Yeah, I agree with that. The other thing that I'm concerned about is the cost of education and for a college graduate. That, to me, is really critical, that we need to get those costs down, because if a student comes out with $30,000 or $40,000 bill on their head,
Right.
what happens if he doesn't have a job to be able to pay that off? Then it falls back on the parent. The parent would have to pay for it, because I understand that bankruptcy doesn't preclude you from paying that bill, and also that if they can't, if they're certainly not going to be able to buy a home or start a family, or, you know, so
my
it
question
has
is-
a ripple effect, and if they can't buy a home, there's no property taxes coming in. I mean, it's
Why does that increase so exponentially every year? It goes up way beyond the margin of inflation.
That's what I'd like to find out.
And, you know, it doesn't make sense. They can't, they're the higher education, they're the higher learners, and they're going to.
Well, you know, I'll answer it partially from what I had experience at Concord last year. One of the reasons that they didn't give the universities the money that they had is because the universities absolutely refused to look into how they can cut back on their expenses. Why they wouldn't justify courses that were being taught by professors with 2 or 3 or 4 students in it, or why they had a higher administration ratio than they did 10 years ago, and things of that nature. When they absolutely refused to do that, and I know I set in on the capital budget, we cut back the capital budget because they could not justify what they were doing with the money to a sufficient amount, whereas the community colleges did an excellent job, and we gave them as much as they asked for because they had a good plan, and they did some fundraising of their own, so that one of the major elements, which was the student center, was being financed by their income.
And more, it sounds like people are, that's turning into a bargain for people
Yeah.
to go to the community college.
Community college, yes, it is.
And it shouldn't be
For the
an
dollar
insult to go to a community college and then go maybe 2 years to get your
You know, I actually
full
did
bachelor's
that. I went to Cocoa Community College and
Uh-huh.
got my 2-year degree, and then I went to Florida Atlantic University, which was only an upper division at the time,
Uh-huh.
and I got my degree. So my whole education was very inexpensive compared to what you'd pay today to go.
Yeah.
So that is a good avenue for students. I think that's an excellent, and particularly if you're going into the trades, you know, it's much.
Well, I like the agreement that Granite State College has done now with Nass Shore Community College, where they're teaching courses that allow a smoother transition to go into the 4-year college. So anyway, that's some of the things, but let me get back to one question I wanted to ask you about, was the scholarship program with the business.
Oh, yeah.
People are wanting to cut that out because they're saying that credit takes away from the income of business enterprise tax, and therefore we can't afford that. Now, I think that's a poor way of looking at it, because I think here we're taking advantage of the ability of poor students to get into a charter school or some other kind of school when their school is not serving their needs is the way the parents would like to see it.
Well, I think it's an excellent idea, and I think it's an excellent program, because, I mean, there are just so many poor students in Nashua, you know, come from relatively poor homes that need a boost up, and I think that is an excellent way of doing it, and it doesn't require money being taken away from our school district.
Right.
So I think that's an excellent way that.
And our school district can actually, you know, compete for that money as well. If they
Sure.
if they have a service that can provide for a child from out of town, they can compete for that. And that whole system is driving competition. But those kids that fall through the cracks, whether it be due to poverty and they can't get into say a private education, which will be a little bit more tailored to their needs, that you know the public school may not be able to handle in these critical part of their years. And I think one of the nice things about that as well is that businesses can have a little control over where their tax dollars are going, you know, and that's kind of a beauty of that. You know, get that in. Yeah, I want that to go to help out some poor kids that can't get a better education. Wow.
I thought that would be a great way of helping the unemployment, too, that if we could give them a tax credit for taking people and training them, you know, we still pay the unemployment But I guess there's some programs that already do that in this state. But I thought that'd be another way. You know, here I know I was unemployed for a year, and I would have liked to have something like that to retrain me into a different. I wanted to go to school and learn how to do the medical transcription stuff, and it would have been nice if they would allow me to go, pay me my unemployment, and I would learn, and then I could go into their business if they liked me, you know. So I thought that would be a good way to help out too. But,
Right.
I do like this idea of the scholarships.
Yeah, I think Kate Baker's running that program, right? Or she's.
I don't know.
Kate Baker's involved with at least
With
getting it out there.
scholarship, yeah.
With the scholarship, and it's really for businesses that pay the BET or the BB or BPT. I get.
Business profit and business enterprise.
Thank you. All right.
You think
That's why I always
bad?
ask you for help.
You think that's bad? Come to the school district and we'll tell you all kinds of acronyms.
But those companies can, if they're paying those taxes, they can at least have, I think it's up to 80% or of that tax to go to helping out these kids.
All right.
What a wonderful idea.
What I also like too, it's an independent organization that the money goes to, and they're the ones that get to decide who
Right.
gets the. So it's an independent thing. It's
You have
not-
to fill out a form.
Yeah, you
The
have to be
businesses,
qualified. Yeah.
They can't tell you which kid they want to go to that, and
Right.
so it's really it's for about 11,000, I think, students in the state of New Hampshire.
Something
could
like
qualify?
that, yeah.
Right,
The
so
total.
it's a fraction.
Yeah, it's a very small fraction of what
Yeah.
it is. People shouldn't be scared that the school district's going to lose money,
No.
or that well, the only thing is that you're not getting that business enterprise tax.
But the kids are still getting educated.
They're getting it, and they're getting, the money is going into education a different way.
Right. And
I agree with you.
I think that's just the beauty of that is helping everybody. And it's time to start thinking out of the box, because everybody says, think out of the box, think out of the box. Well, here you go. We can't do that. That's, you know,
Well, I
that's
think
thinking out of the
everybody's
box.
protecting their turf.
Right.
You know,
I
they're
think
so
you're right.
afraid that it's going to pull more away. But, you know, on the other side, we've had a lot pulled away too, as far as social issues are concerned that you might not agree with it, you know, that are going on.
Well, you're getting up there, and if you get on the education committee, you think you're going to have some controversy in this, with your background in the Board of Education, as well as your own opinions of how the education should go?
Well, probably. I don't know that it. I was talking with one of the members of the committee, and they had a pretty good operating. That they were not vicious, I guess you might say. Or, but I'm sure there'll be things that I'd have to think twice about. I don't want to go up with a closed mind.
Right.
I want to go up with an open mind to listen, because every time you put in a law, I've told you this before. If you're hurting someone when you're helping someone else, oftentimes, and you don't understand all the consequences until you really get into the heart of the matter.
Right.
And I'd hope that we start putting this political ball game away, that people will work together. It's so important. We're killing each other, I
Right.
think, particularly on the federal level. It's just unbelievable what's going on in Washington, and I don't think New Hampshire is all that bad. I don't think they come close to that. So I'm looking forward to that. And I love being on the learning curve, and I'm sure it's going to be a while for me to get everything under my belt, so that, and I hope that I do get put on the
Well, I think one thing
education
is
committee.
necessary that I don't think our governmental agencies do enough of, is evaluating the programs they have. Get feedback. Do they need to be tweaked? Do they need to be eliminated? Do something different? But that was the one disappointment my greatest disappointment up there, is if I asked questions of some of these people, they couldn't answer it because they really hadn't thought that way about evaluating the performance. Did it reach its objectives, et cetera?
Well, probably because there was not a lot of pressure put on them, and that's what I
Well,
think the
that's why.
legislature.
If you get up there, I hope you put pressure on them.
Well, I'd love to work closer with the Board of Education,
Yeah.
the State Board of Education. I understand that, well, the Chancellor's office, you can't, it's like our city functions. You can't tell, you can give them the money, but you can't tell them how to use it. So there's got to be a way of putting a little pressure on these people to improve. Everybody has to participate in this. It just can't be a certain faction of our society, that everybody has to help out in keeping costs under control. I worked in the computer industry for 40 years. In the last 10, 15 years, I sat through so many layoffs. I was a contractor at Wang and at Digital and at Compaq and HP, and I saw so many layoffs, and it just breaks your heart.
Right.
It really does. You don't want anybody to have to lose their job. And so if everybody gets a little less money or gives up a little bit, pays a little bit more in their health benefits or something to help out this problem that we have, everybody has to participate. And I did my participating a long time ago. I mean, I was really cut to the bone. I know what it's like to live on a low income, giving up all the wonderful things that you used to do. So
Right.
I don't want to see that happen for anybody. I really don't, but who
Well, I
knows?
think you're inspiring some people to
Oh, I hope
learn
so.
more in education. I think that's what you're right, though. You have to get that instilled at an early age.
Yes. Yeah.
I can think back and some of the good teachers I had, or some of the good gifts I had. I think I still remember getting National Geographic and looking at that.
Your
And
weekly
I think
reader? What was it? The weekly?
well, that was the
Man.
weekly thing too. But I
Yeah.
mean, the monthly book with all of the world.
I know.
You're learning more about what else is out there. You're not just your local.
Well, it also inspires people to be inventive. This young lady at the high school did a way of purifying water.
Oh, yes.
She won $25,000.
Yes. Isn't that nice?
I was so excited about that. I
Yeah.
said, "This is one of our students."
Yeah.
So we need to encourage more of that.
Right.
And I think that's what will pull us out of this economic slump that we're in, is all these innovative young students coming up that will contribute to our society that way and our businesses. So
That charter school in Nashua does a lot of that. I don't know if you've been there to watch them, but I've
Not
gone
yet.
up there a couple times. And they really instill a desire to learn at all levels. And they don't have grades as such. I mean, a seventh grader can take a class that's a freshman normally would take, or something like that. It's what they are able to do, or what they're more interested in doing. And that just gets the enthusiasm up, as you said.
yeah, well, the other thing too is that I'm concerned about the Common Core and what it's going to cost to implement that, as far as the technology is concerned, and how that might impede our low-income students. What do you do if they require a computer to do some of their homework or whatever?
Right.
And that.
They can go to the library to some degree, but that's...
Some degree, but you can't do that every night.
Right.
And so how are we going to handle that? Who's going to pay for that? I mean, that's going to be a big. We don't have a feel, I don't anyways, of how much it's going to cost to implement, writing the new curriculum, whether the state will give us money to help us with that, or how that's going to be funded. So that's a big concern coming up. And David Miritaki on the board has been reiterating this every so often about, hey, let's figure out how much it's going to cost to do this. And I don't know that we've had a lot of guidance from the state or the federal
Some
on what
schools
it's
are
going to cost.
starting to get iPads for all their...
Yes, well, we have
kids
two.
in the high school.
Yeah, and I got mine this year. So excited! I love mine.
Yeah.
So how's the campaign going?
Well, very well. This is a special election, quite different than the one I had in November that I run. So it's all about getting out the vote. So I'm doing all my calling right now, making personal phone calls and getting the organization together. I've got to figure out how to get those silly signs into the ground because the ground's frozen now,
Right.
and things like that. So it's a lot of fun, and I'm different approach than what I did the last time, and it's going well.
Do you have a website or anything like that?
Facebook, Elizabeth van Twuyver for state rep. I believe that's the title of it.
Okay.
The special groups.
And do you have a phone number if people want to call you?
Oh,
about it?
sure. It's 883-5723, and I welcome phone calls. I'd be glad to talk with people about the issues that they have on their mind, and just hope that they'll use more discretion in voting this time than we did last time. And it's unfortunate we have to have a special election, costing us a little bit of money. But
Well, thanks
thankful for
stepping
the
up to
chance to
plate.
get another time
Well,
to run.
They may
So-
call you too and ask to put a sign in their window or
Hey,
something
yes.
like that.
Oh,
you know?
yes. Well, I'll be glad
So,
to get that
I
sign
mean,
down there.
that's better than the frozen ground. Or,
Oh, yes.
But you might have to, if we get snow this weekend. You
Well, you know, I've been putting the sign out in the yard.
Yeah.
And every day when it melt a little bit, it'll fall over again. I have to go put it back up, straighten it up again. So I tried, most of the snow is gone, so I tried, and I said, can't get this little wire into the solid
No,
ground yet. So
no, it's-
got to figure that out before too long.
Well, I'm sure people will be out there waving some signs for you, just like they normally do in the regular election. And
Let's hope it's a little warmer.
Yes, I was
Yeah.
just going to say, would you please pray for warm weather on the 19th of February so that everybody will come out and vote?
yeah, it starts at 6 a.m. That
6
is
a.m.
terrible.
6 to 8 a.m.
Yeah, 6
Oh.
8 to 8 p.m. and that'll keep you going.
That's right, that's
But,
right. But we're hoping for a good turnout. But,
Good.
you know, typically, special elections don't bring out as many people as a general election does, so.
Thank you for getting involved, though.
Thank you.
It
Well,
really
it's
is
it's exciting, it really is.
Yeah.
And I got interested in politics back when Clinton was elected president. And I thought, well, I guess it's time to get involved. And I've been involved on and off. I've worked on a few campaigns. I worked on George W. Bush's campaign.
Yeah, may help me.
I did some calling for Carl, and I've also did some work for the mayor on when she was running for the executive council. So, and I like that part, exciting. I love calling people on the phone and asking them to vote for my favorite person. So that's and I think everybody should. We need a more participation by the public
Yeah.
on this, and hopefully this time that we're going through right now will encourage that people realize that, hey, you got to keep an eye on those people in Washington, D.C. or up there in Concord to see what they're doing, because
You can't
it's
put your head in the
important.
sand, especially nowadays. You
Yeah.
can't.
Yeah.
Right?
Well,
No, good. Thank you and good luck.
Thank you.
In your coming election.
thank you so much for having me and giving me this opportunity to talk with you.
And thank you for listening in, and hope to see you at the next affair we have. Thank you.